Talks about the fact that she has blue eyes, and then she says, I have great genes, you know, because she's wearing jeans. But according to the woke people, this means that she's a white supremacist. It also doesn't help that her bra size is 36 kkk. And again, all the research shows that these trigger warnings don't even work. What they do is reinforce the idea that trauma is central to your identity, and that you should let it define you instead of dealing with it, dispatching it, and moving beyond it. People wonder why the younger generations have so much anxiety. It's this stuff. Lots of stuff makes us uncomfortable. You know what makes me uncomfortable? This.
You'd be forgiven for thinking the Sydney Sweeney issue was done and dusted. Apparently not, because the woke left are still up in arms, desperately trying to cancel her over a harmless ad. And honestly, this isn't surprising, considering the perpetually offended mob always finds something to rage about. So in comes Bill Maher, tearing the woke left to absolute pieces for attempting to cancel Sydney Sweeney. Trust me, this is pure comedy gold. Let's get into it.
Guys, I'm off the grid for August, but Bill Maher is getting close. I don't know if he'll get there, but he's getting closer to the promised land, maybe. Bill, come on.
And in other uncomfortable racial news, sad news. We found out this week that Sydney Sweeney is a Nazi. That was just... no, she's not. But you all see the ad that she's out there. This is a very important ad that we're seeing now. There she is, dressed like Jay Leno in all blue denim. And she talks about the fact that she has blue eyes, and then she says, I have great genes, you know, because she's wearing jeans. But according to the woke people, this means that she's a white supremacist. It also doesn't help that her bra size is 36 kkk.
So Bill Maher wraps up the entire Sydney Sweeney brouhaha in one brilliant comic swoop, effortlessly poking fun at the far left while he's at it. To anyone with common sense, the ad was clearly just a playful pun. A harmless joke with zero intention of pushing racial stereotypes or white supremacist messaging. But of course, the forever offended brigade managed to twist it into yet another tragedy, acting as if Sweeney personally rewrote history simply by appearing in an ad. Maher, never one to tiptoe around fragile feelings, decides to pour gasoline on the already blazing fire. He jokes, deadpan and unapologetic, that the internet basically treated her like some extremist villain, as if her bra size were some secret extremist code. It's the kind of joke that exposes just how unhinged the outrage machine can be. And honestly, it's comedy at its finest. Bold, biting, and painfully accurate.
I will say this, they should have been aware when they wrote this ad that this is what some people were going to think. I don't think they did it on purpose, but I also think it's pretty funny that all the online social justice girls are like, it's racist. There's no such thing as good genes. Right, and then you go on Tinder and swipe left on every bald guy.
It's true, the ad writers absolutely knew this kind of over-the-top reaction was coming. They saw it a mile away, but they didn't care. And honestly, neither should anyone else. We're supposed to be living in a free world where creativity doesn't need pre-approval from the outrage police. People should be able to make jokes, play with ideas, and express themselves without worrying that a digital mob will ambush them for stepping out of line. As long as what you say doesn't violate the law, you're within your rights. Period. That's the whole point of constitutional protection for free expression. It safeguards uncomfortable humor, edgy satire, and imperfect opinions just as much as it protects the safe stuff. If freedom only applies when no one gets offended, then it isn't freedom at all, it's compliance. And watching people panic over a harmless pun proves exactly why voices like Bill Maher still matter. Is this conversation helpful so far?
Finally, new rule, let's put a trigger warning on trigger warnings. A new study from Flinders University analyzed a dozen other studies on trigger warnings, and they all came to the same conclusion. They don't work. Not only don't they protect your feelings, but if you actually have been traumatized by something they're warning you about, a trigger warning makes it worse. It's like if seatbelts were made out of broken glass. It winds up just being a reenactment of the old joke, how do you keep a pussy in suspense? I'll tell you later.
Many of the people outraged by Sydney Sweeney's ad insisted it should have come with a trigger warning, as if a playful commercial suddenly required the same caution label as a psychological thriller. They argued that viewers needed to be protected from its supposedly offensive nature. But Bill Maher pushes back hard, pointing out what he sees as the obvious truth. Trigger warnings don't actually work. Human curiosity is undefeated. The moment you tell people, "Don't look at this," their instinct is to look at exactly that. It's basic psychology. Curiosity often overpowers delicate sensibilities. Instead of shielding anyone, a trigger warning would likely have guaranteed more views, more outrage, and more frantic think pieces from the chronically offended. Maher's point is simple but sharp. Warnings don't prevent reactions. They fuel them. And in this case, the very people demanding protection from the ad would probably have raced to watch it the second they saw a caution label slapped on it.
Now, for those of you who have been living on an offshore oil rig for the last 10 years and don't know what I'm talking about, a trigger warning is a kind of close your eyes, here comes an ouchie. That, like so many bad ideas in recent years, got started on college campuses. Students started demanding them so they could get ready in case something in a book or a piece of art or a history lesson reminded them that life included bad things and not just good, and sometimes people were mean. You can't have that just sprung on you. Several universities in recent years have even compiled lists of words we should be warned about to get rid of altogether, including balls to the wall, no can do, you guys, master, white paper, man in the middle, gyp, off the reservation, peanut gallery, insane, and virgin. Virgin?
Bill Maher's analogy is brutally straightforward. Life doesn't hand out trigger warnings. Hard moments, painful truths, and unexpected challenges hit without flashing lights or gentle reminders. So why, he asks, should students demand them in college lectures? By the time you're sitting in a university classroom, you're legally an adult over 18 and supposedly preparing to face the real world. If you can handle adulthood, bills, relationships, social media chaos, and whatever else life throws at you, you should be able to handle an uncomfortable topic without needing a verbal safety net. Maher also points out what he sees as a hilarious hypocrisy. The same students demanding emotional cushioning are often immersed in things that would shock older generations. Explicit content, chaotic online trends, wild nightlife, and everything in between. Yet suddenly, a lecture topic is too much to bear. In his view, it simply doesn't add up. Trigger warnings aren't protecting anyone. They're encouraging fragility.
Can't say virgin as opposed to what? Person experiencing not getting laid? You would think that one would take the cake for the oversensitivity, but the students at Brandeis said, "Hold my baby bottle." They made a list of expressions they don't want to hear because they remind them of violence. Terms like killing it, beating a dead horse, and yes, even trigger warning.
These censored words are often replaced with clunky, bloated phrases that are either hilariously unnecessary or completely nonsensical. And even when the replacement technically makes sense, it still takes a few extra seconds to decode what the person is actually trying to say. It becomes linguistic gymnastics for no real purpose. Take the word virgin, for example. Instead of using the simple, universally understood term, some insist on swapping it for the awkward phrase, "a person yet to get laid." Honestly, it sounds more like a bad joke or a line from a parody skit. Yet this is the kind of rebranding critics argue is being pushed in the name of sensitivity. The broader complaint is that it creates an illusion of enlightenment through overcomplication. Instead of clarity, we get unnecessary verbal theater. Instead of straightforward communication, we get confusion dressed up as virtue. And at the end of the day, no one is truly helped by these kinds of linguistic acrobatics.
At some point, the trigger warning escaped from campus and got out into the real world, and now they're everywhere. Warnings at the top of Reddit threads and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram posts. Warnings before your favorite serial killer series, before news articles. Disney put an advisory on the movie Dumbo, warning viewers about stereotypes because otherwise you might think it was a documentary about flying elephants. Turner Classic Movies still wants to show you classic movies, but before we do, first there are a few parts we'd like you to feel really bad about. Now enjoy the show. Theaters do it now, too. The storied Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis tipped off their crowd that a play included simulated gunshots, strobe lights, and haze. Haze.
Who exactly could haze possibly hurt or offend? Sometimes these trigger warnings drift into pure absurdity. Think about it for a moment. What can a little haze in a theater realistically do to someone? It's simply atmospheric fog meant to enhance lighting effects, not an emotional landmine waiting to explode. Yet some insist it needs a warning, as if a gentle mist were capable of unleashing trauma on unsuspecting viewers. Sure, someone might argue that haze could remind a person of a bad dream or a chaotic nightmare, but even that stretches logic to its breaking point. If a bit of stage fog is enough to send someone spiraling, then the issue arguably isn't the haze. It's the level of sensitivity we're now expected to accommodate. At some point, these warnings stop being helpful and start becoming irritating. Not everything needs a caution label. Sometimes a harmless effect is just that, harmless.
And again, all the research shows that these trigger warnings don't even work. What they do is reinforce the idea that trauma is central to your identity and that you should let it define you instead of dealing with it, dispatching it, and moving beyond it. People wonder why the younger generations have so much anxiety. It's this stuff. Lots of stuff makes us uncomfortable. You know what makes me uncomfortable? This bullshit.
Bill Maher's argument is straightforward. Instead of letting trauma become a permanent shadow that dictates every step you take, the healthier approach is to confront it. Ideally with real support, professional help, or trusted guidance if you have access to it. Healing comes from working through pain, not tiptoeing around anything that might remind you of it. From this perspective, trigger warnings don't truly protect people. They can reinforce the very fears they claim to soften. By constantly announcing that a topic is dangerous or overwhelming, they may train the mind to expect distress before anything even happens. Rather than empowering someone, repeated warnings can keep them stuck in the same emotional loop, continually reminded of what hurt them. Maher's point is simple but forceful. You can't grow stronger by avoiding life altogether. Growth comes from facing difficult experiences gradually, safely, and with the right support until they no longer control you.
Honestly, we cannot go any further in the other direction we've been going in. We've already passed the point of parity. A student group in Australia recently called for trigger warnings on eye contact. Even the Taliban are okay with eyes. Eye contact? Were you traumatized as a child after losing a staring contest? What's next? Trigger warnings for conversations? Having everyone walk around with name tags that say, "Hi, I'm Dave. Please don't bring up doorknobs."
The best way to fight your fears is to confront them head-on, not hide behind a wall of trigger warnings. Trigger warnings may feel protective in the moment, but critics argue they can reinforce avoidance. They subtly teach that the world is full of danger, that you're too fragile to handle discomfort, and that stepping outside your emotional bubble is risky. Over time, that mindset doesn't necessarily make you safer. It can make you more anxious and more controlled by the very fears you're trying to escape. True strength, many psychologists suggest, often comes from gradual exposure. When you face something that scares you, even in small, manageable steps, you chip away at its power. The fear begins to shrink, confidence grows, and you realize you're capable of more than you thought. That's how courage is built. Not through constant warnings or overprotection, but through resilience, experience, and a willingness to move through temporary discomfort in order to reclaim your confidence.